Okay, yeah, so I'll try to be quick. You can ask questions. The idea of the talk is really where we are. Where are we? Why do we want to be in these places of VR, AR? And I'll talk real quickly, but because there's a lot to talk about in this field, and really there's a lot happening. It's a very new field, and yet all the technique have been researched for a long time, but now they're kind of coming to fruition, and we see the technology out in the world. Still early. I'm Johnny, virtualjohnny.com. I got that, by the way. What I like to do is I like to play with technology. I like natural interfaces, and I like people. I like the superpower technology. I'm always trying to find ways to take it out. I've been doing it for a while now. I had a startup, GemSense. We're really closing it these days. We made tiny sensor hub that you could create all kinds of wearable accessories. It could even fit in a ring. In a world that was talking about controllers for VR and what are we going to use, we were creating smart controllers. We put it in guns, swords. It was a lot of fun. People put it on their body and used it for swimming in VR. And yeah, it did make you look less ridiculous, but it was a lot of fun. Uh, but it was a lot of fun, yeah. Not still making you look ridiculous, but holding those real objects while you're doing that was a lot of fun. I'll show you this quick video. This was in Jerusalem at the Geek Picnic. So here we basically 3D printed a wheel and used it with a very basic experience of driving in a tunnel in VR. Using the smart sword. Like this was one of our worst demos because because going with the sword, the accelerometer would go crazy, and then some people would just wave the sword. They had so much fun. And shooting at virtual targets, of course. That's always a lot of fun for people. Uh, for the past year, I've been developing this augmented reality headset, helmet actually, at Ride On. It lets you see your friends, communicate with them, do music, live videos, anything you would want to do. People do with their smartphone, but you're skiing and you want to do it hands-free. So the idea was to let people be more in the moment and have fun while they're skiing without really handling their phone, freezing, whatever. So this is me if you want to reach out later. And we'll talk about this field of mediated reality. I mean, what is it? How many people here know about AR, VR, used it, tried it? Okay, about half, more than half. That's good. But basically, it's technologies that change the way we interact with reality, see it, feel it. There are all kinds of, we won't go really into it, but virtual reality basically blocks off your whole view, can take all over your senses, sound, hearing, touch, visuals, of course. Augmented reality would be placing virtual objects in this space. Modulating reality would be to take things off from this reality, let's say ads in the real world that we don't want to see. And mediating reality in general, the mediated reality would be controlling the whole viewport, not just viewing through something translucent and seeing the world, but using cameras to actually process everything you're seeing and manipulate it. So basically, it's a spectrum where we have the real world on one side, the virtual reality, and in the middle we have using virtual objects either in the real world or using some real things in the virtual space. It all started back in the 80s with some crazy people who put computers on their body and went outside. These are the fathers of wearable computing. Basically, it was a process similar to this. They started with something like that with an antenna to the roof just to get some reception, some network. But still, we're in the early days. It's about 1995 with these technologies, and I'm not this guy, unfortunately. I'm more like this guy telling you, hey, this is the internet. This is going to be the next big thing. Why? Augmented reality, basically, getting layers of information on our environment is is much better than what we do today with keyboards and mouse. It's an environment that we want to be in. Keyboard and mice we got to because it was the best interface that was at the time, sitting in front of a screen to get what we want. But if we can go outside and have all those readings, get all the data we want, and have those interactions, we can do a lot more. Unfortunately, AR still looks like this. Uh, the Pokemons, yeah, it showed us all that AR is coming. Mostly the commercial companies. Um, Pokemon was more popular than sex at the time. Still is, by the way. They generated it by testing how many people have Pokemon versus Tinder installed. By the way. Yeah, and so one of the biggest thing I like to talk about is Google Glass. I was one of the first explorers, and not just because it was that cool. It wasn't, but because the miniaturization of technology allowed it to go everywhere. And this is my wife during childbirth, by the way. I recorded the whole childbirth, and this is a Wikipedia search just for the image. But I could be with her and not have like this block between us, during childbirth. So that was a lot of fun, and we can see what we can do with these devices, but a lot of people were very afraid of it. I mean, one of the biggest problems was people who didn't want to experience the camera staring at them all the time, Google watching them all the time, and from everywhere. But it did go that way, like for law enforcement, they use it to identify objects and people that way. Google Glass, I'm talking about it because this is one of the most meaningful things in AR till date, even though we didn't hear about it. It looks much better in these industrial or medical environments where it's an add-on to do the work you need to do and not just as a consumer. As a consumer gadget, it failed because of a lot of reasons. But here, they managed to get a lot more productivity out of these devices. But the biggest take from Google Glass was if what we're keeping in the cloud is forever, our computers, things from the last years we go back to and do interaction with, the last month on our smartphones, wearables are for here and now. Basically, if I want to put on a headset, an AR headset, I don't need the complete experience. If we look at this was Google Plus, which is shutting down, but that's a great example. It has a lot of data on phone or tablet, and on a wearable device, the watches have the same interface today, but it came from Google Glass. You get everything in a glance. It's glanceable information and things you can do on the go. So you don't have to stop and deal with the technology, but you can go on with your life, and you get the benefit of technology. So if desktop interfaces used to look like this, in wearables, we will talk more about things that we really need right now. And so we're talking about a lot of collaborative work with these interfaces. Designing things became much faster using VR, AR. These are one of the main drivers. Collaboration, of course. And this is actually from yesterday. Yeah, HoloLens 2 came out. We'll talk about it in a sec. But Magic Leap is one of the most anticipated companies in the field. This is what they just showed. I'll let you be the judge. It also shows how you use the device. I mean, you have a battery pack, a compute pack, a controller. And this is their CNN app that they just launched. The biggest advantage here seems to be just having some screens. I don't know, it's still early days, and this is like one of the most anticipated startups in the field. Pretty disappointing, I have to say. But really, yeah, so everybody's talking about the HoloLens 2, which just came out on the right with Microsoft going business way. Okay, this is not for gaming, not for fun. This is for enterprises, and so they made the flip up, which a lot of people use when developing, and it's very comfortable. They supposedly made the field of view much bigger, and they added a few more benefits for enterprise consumers. And on the right side, we have Magic Leap, who have been promising us a lot of things. But the biggest problem is still these devices are not fit for consumers. And who knows when they'll be. They're barely fit for the enterprise right now, as it is. And one of the biggest problems illustrated here is the field of view. Okay, so they were showing this in their marketing, the green one. The red one is what we had in HoloLens and we have in Magic Leap up to now, which is pretty small. When you look through it, you see basically a block. That when you're close to something, it cuts off because it's just a block of. And this is like the twice bigger field of view that they made. So the companies are right now in a situation where they have to lie about what they have because the products aren't good enough. So the field is still coming up, but there are a lot of uses, and augmented reality is going to be. We're we're hoping it will replace the phone in the end. We're still not sure about that. People have a problem with adopting glasses. How many people here need glasses and don't wear them? One, two, three, four, five, six. With intellectuals, seven, eight. Okay, we're at let's say about 10% more. And that's putting 30, 40 grams on your face for seeing. We need to see. About 80% of our of what we perceive comes from seeing. And so there's a lot of problems to adoption of these things. So we'll go to virtual reality, which is really happening right now. Who remembers him? That was the holodeck Riker. Yeah, so we wanted it to look like this. It still looks kind of like this, more like this today, or this, shooting games again. And it feels very real yet, even though the graphics are still not there. Because of the way it works, it envelops your senses, it kind of feels very real. I can show you a quick demonstration of that. This is the PSVR, PlayStation virtual reality. So this is a grandma watching shark experience. Yeah, so okay, that video wasn't real. But I mean, it feels really real, and you have to remember, if you take away one thing, is every time you hear an ambulance, another TV user might be gone or another VR user born. Because the next generation isn't going to use it, the interfaces like we did, okay? It's a direct continuation of using the phone like this, is just going that way, okay? So yeah, that's how my son usually experiences me. He's already 5 years old, by the way. He's playing with Spider-Man and other superheroes today. But it's really happening everywhere. This is I actually took in a car. This kid is enjoying himself while his mom driving around. And it's happening in libraries, development studios all around us look like this sometime today. This is already happening. Developers and designers work with these. And Bell actually showed how they built the helicopter 10 times faster. Instead of 5 to 7 years, it took them about half a year to design it because they could test it, they could bring teams over, and there are a lot of advantages to it. But they say it will make us less social. But of course, if we look back, we were less social even before. And one of the major advantages of VR is actually being social. One of the most wanted experiences and the most used experiences there are social experiences. This is by Facebook, but we have all kind of collaborative environments like these today. You can choose who you want to be, where you want to be, who you want to be with. Some hotels use it to transport you to other locations. Other uses today are mostly educational or training, and hopefully we won't get to that if you remember what that was. But we also do some physiotherapy and pain relief. This is my wife during her second childbirth. She couldn't use a epidural. I'm not sure how to say that in English. We couldn't use it because she had problems during her first birth. So we had all kinds of solutions. VR was used only for a few minutes, but it was relaxing. Yeah, mostly for the photo, I gotta say. But no, we put her on a beach where it was relaxing. But you know, it was. By the way, there's still here. They opened up the first center in Israel. I think it was Solasky. I think that they do childbirth with VR today, and they thought they had the first childbirth with VR a week ago. I didn't want to ruin it for them. But most of the problems today is tracking. How do we recognize where we're walking around in the virtual world? We used to use outside-in tracking, which is basically putting cameras, and they tell the computer where you are. Today is more common inside-out tracking, which also helps us not be fixed to a certain location. One of the most exciting thing is Oculus Quest by Oculus, Facebook. That's supposed to come up. A $400 headset that you can go and set up anywhere in a few seconds, and doesn't need a $1,500 computer. So this might open up the field a lot. They're selling it as a gaming console for now. So it's kind of funny to see how these companies, that one's selling it for enterprise. Nobody really knows what to do with it. They just want to put units out to build the next version. This one is not connected to the computer. That's the idea. It's not on par with desktop experiences. Doesn't have the compute power. It's more of a mobile platform, uh, if a more powerful one. But the biggest advantage is that you don't need a computer. A lot of the millennials today don't even own a computer. Oh, it's probably runs on Android and something over that. Probably not sure. Really, I don't know. So yeah, but biggest problem today is we need to use controllers for these things. Gestures are not that good yet. And while you still have a lot of options with it, you can do a lot with it. I still don't imagine my mother or grandmother using controllers to do things. I don't imagine. I didn't say it doesn't happen. I mean, but let's say, okay, if you want to imagine, how do you say it? Like this old lady from the periphery where they don't have really tech and they don't know, and you tell her, hey, use that to go and meet your grandson, and she says, what? I'll just call him, you know? Yeah, so the tracking and using controllers, one of the problem is when you're tracking, and with inside-out tracking, which would be used a lot, is when I put the controllers behind where the cameras can see. So there'll still be, there's still a lot to adopt, but Windows have been going on it on a different way, collaborating with a lot of manufacturers on the same platform, Windows platform. You can even do a complete VR experience and use it for productivity today. Things to watch out for and notice, because you want to collect data, but privacy is one of the biggest problems. If we thought we didn't have privacy today, imagine what it would be like when we know every gesture you make, everywhere you look. We have eye sensors in this technology today. And you know, this is one of the things people are very excited about, is really tracking where you look. So we can sell you more, do more with you, help you more maybe here. But one of the questions are, who owns the virtual space? In the end, if I put virtual objects around me in the real world or in the virtual world, who owns that? If it's in my house, if it's in a store, who owns that? That's another question. And the last thing I want to leave you with is the machine to be another. Anybody seen that? So this is they were here actually. This is a collective from Berlin. They were here a few years ago. I actually helped them a bit making it open source. What this experience is basically one participant puts on a VR headset and the other participant has a camera on him, and the participant with a camera watches the other participant and does what he does. Basically, you get an experience in another person's body. So if you lift your hand, I lift my hand, and you see through the camera the hand lifted as if it's yours. And then you stand up, you meet each other. They do what they do with the rubber hand experiment. You know, they touch you and they touch the other hand, and you see it and you feel it, and then you really feel like you were empathy and you feel like you were in that body. And in the end, when you finish that experience, you feel like you had a very special moment with that person. And that, they're talking about tools like this that could bring peace because you connect with people on that level. You were hosted in his body. He gave you that experience and you really feel a bit more of what he is like. So hopefully with tools like this, we can bring on some good things. Thank you very much.